So you want to do a Roth IRA, but you make too much money, so you came across something called a backdoor Roth IRA. You're about to go through with that, but before you do so, you want to watch this video. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what to consider with the backdoor Roth IRA, what pro rata rule is, the calculation behind that, and how that can actually impact you, and also the options to avoid the pro rata rule. So with that being said, let's hop into the video. What you see on the screen are the modified adjusted gross income numbers for the tax filing status and what you need to be aware of. So if you are trying to directly contribute to a Roth IRA and you make above these amounts, depending on the tax filing status, that is going to be an issue to begin with, right? So single individuals, you are not eligible if you make over 161,000 modified adjusted gross income. You are not eligible married filing jointly people if you're making over 240,000 modified adjusted gross income, and then married filing separately, big issue because it's $10,000 not eligible. Now, if you're making below these limits, the 146, the 230,000, you are totally in the clear to directly contribute to a Roth IRA. Pro rata rule isn't relevant, at least yet in your life. It could be down the road, and I'll explain that in a second, but at this moment, you can directly contribute. There is no issue with pro rata rule. You're in the clear. If you're in between kind of that income limit, 146 to 161 or 230 to 240, there is a partial contribution that you're able to directly contribute to, but obviously you have to go around still do a backdoor Roth IRA for the other portion as well. So let's say you're above, that's the whole purpose of this video. You're above 161, you're above 240, and those that aren't above that, do not pause or stop listening because you might be subject to penalty or taxes in the future if you don't pay attention to this. So let's just say you want to do a $7,000 contribution and you want to do a backdoor Roth IRA, and you think it's a really good idea because you're now above that limit, and all of a sudden the pro rata rule jumps out in the middle of the night and scares the crap out of you. That's what's going to happen to a lot of people if they're not prepared for this. So I'm going to break down the pro rata rule exactly, the formula and everything, and make this super simple for everybody. So you'll see on my screen an actual formula to show exactly what usually happens for a lot of people. So a lot of people have been young professionals, they've been increasing their income, and they might leave an old job and they'll roll money over into an IRA to get out of the employer-sponsored 401k plan. Not a bad idea necessarily, but oftentimes what happens is this poses a major concern for high-income earners or young professionals about to increase their income over the years. So they have all this money in a pre-tax or traditional IRA that's growing, or maybe a rollover IRA, and it's growing substantially, but they're not really over that income limit quite yet until they are. And that is when this comes into play. Now they decide to do a backdoor Roth IRA, and this becomes an issue. So all of those IRAs, let's say they total 63,000 in this situation. Let's say this is the first year and the goal is to do a backdoor Roth IRA. That's the whole entire idea. You do a $7,000 non-deductible contribution or after-tax contribution, whatever you want to term it. And the total IRA balance is $70,000. So you're thinking, okay, well, I can just take the $7,000, I can convert it over to my Roth IRA, I do the backdoor, and I'm good to go. Pause. This is what pro rata rule is. So your prorated is where this comes into play. So as you can see on the screen, the way I showed this formula is A and B. My old audit days at Deloitte made me do that. So I have my old IRA, 63,000, divided by my total IRA balance, and this is the converted taxable amount. So that is 90%. That's a significant concern for a lot of people because a lot of people are going to go down the rabbit hole and they're going to try to do this, and then they're going to get dinged with 90% of this being taxable. And that is a really big issue for a lot of people. So if I took the $7,000 and took that, times 90%, that would be $6,300 I'm converting over that would be taxable. The others, let's call it $700, would not be, but that's a really small portion. 90%, obviously, 10% is fine, but 90% is being taxed. And so a lot of people get to this point and they don't understand what is about to hit them until it's too late. So for my young professionals, for anybody for that sake, might have all of these old IRAs sitting there. It could be, like I said, a rollover from an old previous 401k. You rolled it over. You might not know. And if you're not 100% positive, you need to go check. And you also need to join Budgetdog Academy if that's the case, because that's a big concern. And lastly is you might just have a regular IRA you set up in the beginning. It wasn't a Roth IRA. It was just a traditional IRA, everyday IRA, right? So now you might be asking yourself, well, what do I do? And that's what this video is about. So that is what the pro rata rule is. It's going to take a portion, it's going to consider all of IRA assets and take a portion out and consider that taxable when you make this move as a backdoor Roth IRA and as a high income earner. Those individuals that aren't there yet might get to that point. If you're letting your compound interest grow in your investment accounts, it could eventually be an issue down the road, like I said. So avoid this at all costs before you're in that position. And we want to make sure we get out of this early on and not put ourselves in this position. Now, there's a lot of different ways to get out of this per se, but I'm going to give you two main reasons or two main ways to avoid. So the very first obvious one is that you could move your current IRAs, your rollovers, your traditional, whatever the case is, to your current 401k, or if you're self-employed, like a solo 401k. So there is no taxable event in this situation. That's a very important concept. So a lot of times when you're moving or you're cross-pollinating, what I say, traditional to Roth, you're paying taxes on that event. If you're staying pre-tax each time you make that move and you stay within retirement accounts, there is no taxable event, so you should be in the clear. So if you're taking this IRA, and let's say I worked at Deloitte and I have an IRA from the past and I want to take this money and put it into my Deloitte 401k, I'll be fine. And I will also take those IRA assets outside of my IRAs inside my 401k, which will eliminate the pro rata rule entirely, because now I don't have this portion right here. So when I go and do a backdoor Roth IRA, I'm in the clear. It's just the $7,000. That's my total IRA balance, because every single year I rolled to the Roth and I'm totally fine. And that's how you avoid this 90% issue. The other option would be you could pay tax. You could take that whole balance and just say, hey, I'm going to convert this all to the Roth IRA and pay the tax, but you're going to be paying at the normal income tax rate. And so you haven't paid tax on that money yet. And therefore, if you're in a high income tax bracket, this might bump you up even more. And you got to be very aware and understand the tax implications to everything. Now, everybody's situation is different. Your taxable rate might be different than the next person watching this. So there's no way to go through this. This is why you work with professionals. But that in a nutshell is the pro rata rule. And it's a very, very simple educational topic, but a lot of people aren't prepared or aren't aware of this until it's too late. And so they build up all these IRA balance and they go into become a high income earner. They think the backdoor Roth IRA is what they heard online. They heard me talk about it, but then they don't see this. And that's the stuff we talk about in Budgetdog Academy, is the context behind all of these financial moves, the tax, consequences, the taxable events that occur, how to avoid taxes altogether, how to skirt and know the system. The more you know, the better you're going to do. So this is a very, very powerful concept. So this is another reason why you should be paying professionals for education and guidance, because this is going to cost you a ton of money on the back end if you don't get this right. But that's exactly why my Budgetdog Academy students avoid this type of stuff, because it will cost you hundreds of thousands, if not millions, with many other things similar to this in the financial world. And you got to be careful with this stuff. And it is not cheap when you make a mistake, and you can't retroactively fix it. It is permanent once it's done. So I hope you get the message loud and clear, and I will see you next Monday.